Welcome to the Sample Chapter Podcast, the show where authors read a sample chapter from one of their books. Here's your host, Jason A. Meiske.
Greetings one and all, and welcome to episode 69 of the Sample Chapter Podcast. My name is Jason A. Meiske, thriller author and your host. For this very special episode, we have horror author Robert Ford coming up in just a few minutes. He's going to read a sample chapter from his latest book, A Penny for Your Thoughts. You don't want to miss it. It is so good. So good. I know I say that a lot, but man, the authors that come on here and do the readings, so many times they put so much emotion into it, and today is no exception. So you don't want to miss out on that interview. Like I said, it's going to be here in just a few minutes. Anyway, yes, this is the show where authors read a sample chapter. Make sure to follow us on social media or hit that subscribe button on YouTube, iTunes, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. If you are an author or you have a recommendation for one, you can reach out to us through social media, or probably the best way would be to email us at samplechapterpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me who you are and what you write, and we'll get you on the show. Or maybe you have a recommendation, and either I can reach out to them or you can have them reach out to me. Either way, yeah, long story short, email me anyway. And if you have any comments about the show, I'm more than happy to respond to any comments. If you have a critique or anything, if there's something that you want to hear more about, then make sure you're contacting us through email or respond on Facebook or Twitter to one of our posts, because we do post on there weekly for new episodes, old episodes, Throwback Thursdays, all that kind of fun stuff. And we like to share a lot of things very, very frequently. So reach out to us. Let us know what we can do to improve the show if you have any recommendations. I do want to take a moment and say thank you to our sponsors. U-Stor-All, the self-storage facility out of Warrensburg, Missouri, has been with us from the very beginning. And they are an amazing self-storage facility. They have just about completed everything at their satellite facility. They've now got about 60 cameras recording between the two facilities. There is non-climate control, climate control. Things look amazing. Awesome place. Check them out at U-Store-All.net. That is the letter U, STORALL.net. Also want to thank our network friends, Pop Goes the Culture. Make sure you click the link in the show notes for them, and you can check out their show. You can check out I think there's a dozen other podcasts on there. Just some fantastic stuff. I've talked about before, one of my favorite ones is their flagship show, Pop Goes the Culture. I also like listening to their Alamo Drafthouse Backlot as a weekly show about current movies and movie news. There's also a fantastic one I've been following a lot lately called the Back in Time podcast. I like a lot of movie and pop culture stuff, so this has been a lot of fun for me. But yeah, go down over to popcozyculture.com and check out all the other shows that they have to offer. It's awesome stuff, and we're thrilled that they've taken us on and that they share our episodes every week as well. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to say a tremendous thank you to official sponsor, Scrivener. Yeah, Scrivener is my favorite writing app. I use it for all of my writing now. I have the desktop version on both my computer and laptop. I also have the app on my phone. All of this is synced to a cloud service, that way I can access my current work in progress anywhere I go. So many good tools within there. Such a fantastic writing software. You've got to check it out. You're going to hear an ad for them here in just a moment, so make sure you're listening for that special code that you can enter if you want to go and pick up a copy of Scrivener for yourself. So we are entering the end of May. Hopefully your May has been a productive one. For writing, mine has not been very productive. As I talked about maybe the first part of May, I did finish my current story, my second novel. Finished it up writing on my Scrivener app in the theater. But really, since then, I haven't done a whole lot with it. I took the rest of the last day or two of May off, and most of this month I have been just catching up on projects around the house, making improvements with the show, getting some website stuff organized, getting lots of things done that I've been putting off. But end of the month is coming up, and perhaps I just needed that month away. I'm hoping to get busy on getting the story done up. I'm really, really excited, though, because I just this past week got to see the cover art. The local artist who's been working on it for me, he sent me a shot of what it looks like. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It looks so cool. The novel is called A Novel Idea. It is a psychological thriller. It's about an author who is suspected of stealing, maybe even killing, for his stories. Anyway, so yeah, this past month I haven't been doing a lot of writing, hardly any editing at all. I need to get busy. That's all there is to it. I need to get busy. So hopefully your May is doing well. Hopefully your Memorial Day weekend was a good one, and that you all had safe travels if you went anywhere. Oh, before I forget, I do also want to say once again, coming up June 8th is the Writers of Warrensburg workshop, followed by a book signing at Reader's World of Warrensburg. The Writers of Warrensburg is my local writing group that I'm a part of. This is our 4th annual workshop. There will be several author and editor type people there on hand giving lessons and such. It's a fantastic chance to learn some stuff, to get some critiques. And it's pretty cheap. I think it's only like $35 for the full day. Starts like 9 in the morning and it goes till 3 in the afternoon. Lunch is included. Snacks are included. I think last time I ate like 6 or 7 cookies and drank coffee all day. And lunch was amazing. Oh my gosh. I had a chicken breast last year that was just to die for. So don't know what the menu is this year, but the food is always incredible. And, getting the chance to sit down with other authors and kind of network with them, talk with other ones, you can't miss out on an opportunity to do that. So this is so much fun. Oh, and then, like I said, at the end of that, at Reader's World at 4 o'clock is the author book signing, which will include myself and several other authors, previous guests of the show, and other new ones that have not been on the show as of yet. So it's going to be a really good time. It's a full-day event. Highly recommend it, and I would love to see you there. So if you are a fan of the show and you do make it to this, make sure you come up to me. I'm going to be wearing my Sample Chapter podcast shirt, so make sure you come up and say hello. I'll give you a shout-out on a future episode. Reach out to me, and I will send you the information for how to sign up for that, or you can go to Writers of Warrensburg on Facebook, or let me know if you're interested in coming, and I'll make sure you have the information needed. As I said before, our guest this week is Robert Ford. He hails from Pennsylvania, and he was amazing, just really wonderful to get to talk to, getting to know him a little bit. And the funny thing is in chatting with him beforehand, we figured out that we know some of the same people in the writing community, so that was pretty neat. It's always fun whenever that happens. We talk about his writing career here in the interview. He's been writing for more than 15 years now. We talk about his first books and writing characters, how the characters are what comes to him first. And then he also gives us some really fantastic advice for beginning authors or authors still early in their careers, such as myself, who may be listening in. It's fantastic stuff. His latest book, A Penny for Your Thoughts, comes out this weekend, June 1st. It's available for pre-order right now, which is why he is a guest on the show. As you know, every author that comes on the show, they are reading from a book that is either available right now or is available for pre-order. That book is coming out here in just a couple days. Make sure you click the links in the show notes so you can pick up a copy for yourself, because, like I said, I think when you hear this and you listen to the emotion coming through Mr. Ford as he speaks, it's got a very... For me, it had a very Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Had a very Boy's Life feel to it as he was reading. And oh man, I love that novel. So I think this has been just that little chapter he reads today has really spoke to me. And I know I'm gonna grab one of these myself. So enough of me talking. As always, I ramble on too much, so I'm going to go ahead and get us on over to our interview with Robert Ford right after a word from our sponsor. Jason here. Hey, I wanted to take a moment and tell you about my favorite writing tool, Scrivener. Now, I know you've heard about Scrivener because their writing software has been embraced by hundreds of thousands of other writers like you and I, from the novice to best-selling novelists. The reason we all use it is because of Scrivener's core concept to bring all the writing tools you use together in a single application. And with tools like automatic backup, character maps, project goals, and let's not forget that amazing corkboard, you can see why I use Scrivener every day. As a bonus for Sample Chapter podcast listeners, use code CHAPTER for 20% off your desktop version. Scrivener writing software, built by writers for writers. Hello guys and gals, welcome to another episode of the Sample Chapter podcast. Jason here, and this week we are deep diving back into the horror realm with Bob Ford. Mr. Ford, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Now, I know you're out of Pennsylvania, but right now you're in Atlanta. How's the trip going?
It is a great little getaway this weekend. The weather is much nicer than we've been experiencing in Pennsylvania, so it's a welcome change.
That's great. That's great. Well, go ahead and let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been a horror writer now for over 15 years. I've got quite a few novels and novellas and short story collections coming out, but I'm here today to talk about a new novel that's getting released on June 1st from Poltergeist Press, and it's a novel that I co-wrote with Matt Hayward. It's called A Penny for Your Thoughts. So, and that's one that we're exceptionally excited about, and there's a lot of really good buzz that's happening. So. Yeah, that's why I'm so happy to have it, be on the show today.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I love whenever I get to open up my messenger or email or whatever, and I get to hear from an author that's reaching out to me, and this was really, really cool. So, like, we can dive right in here with this new book. So, Penny for Your Thoughts. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, it's the thing with A Penny for Your Thoughts. It's a novel that Matt and I started. I know Matt now for coming up on about 4 years, and always just really respected Matt. He's just such a phenomenal guy, really, really talented writer. And he approached me last summer and he said, I think I have something for us to work on if you're interested in collaborating together. And he kind of unspooled this idea, and I kept thinking about this idea that night. And the next morning I woke up, it was in my mind right away. And it wasn't too long after the convention, we really kind of dug right in and started cranking this thing out. But A Penny for Your Thoughts, it deals with a guy named Joe Openshaw, who he's been through a little bit of a rough patch in life. He just got out of a stint in prison for some things that went very wrong. And he's trying to get his life back together. And he lives in this little town of Lowback, and he's out hiking, just kind of clearing his head one morning as he started to do every Saturday, and he stumbles across this jar of old wheatback pennies. And but the interesting thing is what's attached to all those pennies, and things go very awry from that point on. Let's leave that part at that.
All right. Fantastic. Well, I can't wait to hear the chapter here a little bit later on. And that's coming out June 1st, just a couple of days after this episode airs. So make sure everybody, you need to all follow the links in the show notes and click on there to go and get your pre-order right now. I should say also, this is co-written by Matt Hayward, like you were saying. And I want to say a special thank you to Matt, because thanks to him, I'm seeing my downloads and listens in Ireland are jumping up there. So thank you, Matt. I just want to say that's pretty awesome, and I appreciate that. So.
No, Matt's a great guy, and like I said, he's such a talented writer too. I mean, he's a Bram Stoker Award nominated author himself. So He's no joke. I mean, might not have been around in the industry as long as some of us else, but he's just such a talented guy to work with. We had so much fun working on this one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I'll make sure and put a link in the show notes for not only your website but also Matt's as well, so that way we can get both of that information out there for the fans to follow.
Awesome. That'd be great.
So you've been writing for about 15 years, you said. I know you went back. We were talking before the show. Your first book, Samson in Denial, came out. Tell us about this book.
Well, I lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years and went to college there. And but previous to that, I lived in the sticks, man. I mean, there was nothing but cornfields and dogs howling at night, and it was just, I mean, it was a massive culture shock to go to a city the size of Philadelphia and suddenly, immerse yourself and live there. So it was really easy. I walked around a lot. I went to Chinatown. I went to South Street. I lived a couple blocks away from Rittenhouse Square, and just observing people, in the community, citizens in the community just walking around doing their thing. And it wasn't until a couple years after that, after I moved back from Philadelphia back to York, Pennsylvania, the title Samson in Denial is just a phrase that came in my head. And I started kicking that around, and usually I end up getting titles first. I have no idea maybe what they're attached to story-wise. And the story fleshed out. All I knew at the beginning was it was a guy who ran a pawn shop, and a junkie came in trying to pawn the head of a 3,000-year-old mummy, and it went from there.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's got some quite some stuff in there, but that also began the true mythos of. I don't want to give too much info, but it started the mythos of a cult called the Crimson Sisters, and the core of that story.
Awesome. But and it sounds like from everything I'm hearing about your stories and when you dive into them, it seems like it's very much character driven. That's the first thing that comes to your mind.
Very much, absolutely, very much. It's I've always felt that when I'm writing something or I'm doing live readings. I really want to make an emotional impact to the readers, to the listeners. If I can make them laugh, if I can make them cry, really upset, whatever, I think that's pushing those emotional hot buttons is something that as a writer, I think that should really be a huge goal. As well as entertain, of course, you have to entertain with a good story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always taken the extra time, to develop my characters. When I was working with Samson, I could go into a bar, a grocery store, a bank, anywhere, and really kind of know what Samson would do if the bank got robbed. If, a bar fight broke out, I would know in my head what was going to go wrong and what was going to go right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, character development is certainly, at the top of my list.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much we get these characters in our heads and living there for a long time as if they're real people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And knowing, what Matt had written, previous to us collaborating, he had, written, Brain Dead Blues, What Do Monsters Fear? Even the Faithful, his character development was always really kind of in par with what my ideals, which is why I just thought it would be a blast to work with him on this.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And you've worked not only with Matt, but you've also worked with some other pretty big names in the industry. I mean, Brian King, Mary Sanjay, Jonathan Jans, Summer Cannon.
The Welcome to the Show anthology. Yeah.
Yeah, just to name a few. I mean, oh my gosh, this is
that
fantastic.
was such a fun idea, and And I think Matt I think Matt has kind of kicked around. I think he's mentioned it publicly that he's got some ideas for a follow up to that. It won't be a direct sequel necessarily. It won't be set in the same kind of situation. But yeah, he's got some sequel to that thing. So yeah, I keep an eye out for that as well.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I mean, it looks incredible, and I mean, you've got Welcome to the Show, Lost Highways. You got a number of great anthologies that you've been able to take part in. Oh my gosh, Clive Barker! I just read that as we're speaking here that you've gotten into. I mean, so this is no joke. All right, so then. For my authors that are listening to this show, what kind of advice would you have about writing, with maybe a potential goal to get into some anthologies?
Well, the thing with anthologies, there's the market, and this is one thing I've noticed. The market is definitely changing than it used to be. There were, let's see, this is going to sound really strange, but when you start looking at some of the anthology guidelines, take a look at who they name drop first. It's one of those things, and this is going to sound sort of elitist and really kind of terrible, but I really don't mean it that way. They need to act like a professional publication. The worst thing that I've seen young, inexperienced writers do is sell themselves short. You know what doesn't pay the bills? Exposure. So anything that pays an exposure, I'm sorry, don't do that. If you believe in yourself and you think you have some kind of talent, keep submitting it somewhere until you actually get paid for it. Don't sell yourself short, because what happens is ending up in anthologies or publications that you have a big pile of exposure. And that doesn't really do you any good. It doesn't help you push past that and get into more professional anthologies and more professional publications, but the good thing is the market is definitely changing. It's changing for the better.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to the guidelines and really polish your work, as much as you possibly can before you submit. Just make sure that it's set up in a professional manner, and keep doing it again and again and again. Eventually you'll get there. Eventually you'll get published more and more often.
Yeah, that's great advice. I really appreciate you giving that to us.
Sure, of course.
So, in addition to A Penny for Your Thoughts coming up here in a couple of days, what are you working on?
Well, let's see. This summer I have the paperback release and ebook release of Rattlesnake Kisses. That is a novella that I co-wrote with John Bowden. So that's sold out in its limited edition format and through Thunderstorm Books, and it's going to be available out in paperback and ebook later this summer. I'll also have a novella collection that is untitled as of yet, but that's going to change real quick. But that novella collection, that's going to be coming out this summer as well. So it's going to be hopping. There's there's another novella with John Bowden called Cattywampus. That'll keep you guys on your toes. That's a very interesting read. Very interesting. It's a very disturbing read, but it's that'll be coming up this summer too.
That's awesome. All right. Well, you'll have to make sure and send me a message. Let me know when these books are coming out. We'll make sure and share them on our social media as well.
Certainly will. Yeah.
All right. Well, where can people follow you? You and Matt for that matter.
Well, you can follow me right at I'm on all forms of social media on Instagram, Facebook, and all that noise. But you can follow me on my website at robertfordauthor.com. And Matt is the same way. He's on every single, social media platform. But you can also follow him at his website at sundancecrow.com.
All right. Great. And like I said before, we'll have links to all of this in the show notes. And
sure.
Of course, everybody, make sure you pay particular attention to that Amazon link that I'm going to put on there for A Penny for Your Thoughts. So that way you can grab your copy before it comes out here in a couple of days, and make sure it drops right into your Kindle or a paperback. That'll work too, right?
Yep, absolutely. Hardback, paperback, and ebook.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. It's always amazing to me whenever I get to talking to people and how many people that we kind of know, or this author world, how big it's getting once you
Yeah.
really get in there. So I look forward to speaking to you again, and hopefully we run into each other sometimes. I'd love to have a sit down and talk with you.
I really hope so. You know, and it's a very small digging around, you know, in the horror genre. That's for certain. But I know I really appreciate you having me on.
It's been my pleasure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand the floor over to horror author Bob Ford with the latest book, A Penny for Your Thoughts.
Chapter 1. Whenever I take the Lowback Trail, I always find something different. Unknown names carved in the tree trunks, discarded briefs by overeager dippers, a smoldering pit left from weekend hikers. But today I found a penny jar. My parole officer warned me to stick to town, but a trailer park, one grocery store, and row of houses did not make for entertainment. Besides, the Lowback was town, at least to us locals anyway. So like every Saturday, I took a hike. The clear air from last night's storm stung my lungs, and as a former 20-a-day guy, that shit hurt. I shimmied through the ferns and past the old fishing spot on the bridge, a trail the Lowback youth kept secret like a family heirloom. The dirt path wasn't much to begin with, but now, after the thunderstorm, nothing but thick mud slopped beneath my boots. Rainwater slipped from the high pines and slapped my face. I didn't mind. Being inside for 8 years, I'd take an elderly drunkard spitting on my face for some relief. 8 years, man. Accomplished the robbery didn't make for the cleanest record, but I just happened to be parked by the street while my girl, Angie, robbed a store at gunpoint, you know? Prove otherwise, Your Honor. Angie, on the other hand, was still inside, and Lowback was a better place for it. Rooks and insects chirped and chittered as I whistled and took the trail paralleling the rumbling tributary. High water smacked off the banks and rocks. Dirty as a back-alley whore and just as fit to burst. Rumor had it those waters were home to a school of catfish so big they could eat a gaggle of kids and ask for seconds. I'd never been dumb enough to hop in and find out, but with the storm pushing water levels, I imagined those catfish might decide to emigrate to the woods come supper time. I wanted to make it home before the rain clouds really popped. But then again, had I done that, I'd never have found my jar. After kicking aside a pair of underwear large enough to fit a hippo with glandular problems, that's when I spotted the tree. The jagged trunk still smoked from lightning, and as the wind changed direction, sour air attacked my nostrils. I pressed my sleeve to my face as I jogged on over. The lone pine sat by the water's edge, shredded by the gods. A still flaming branch sizzled on the riverbank. But strangest of all was the crater of blackened earth by the roots. If I didn't know any better, I'd say a tiny meteor had struck. Roots jutted from the scorched soil like tentacles, and I peeked below at the thing buried in the dirt. Rainwater rolled down the filthy glass. A jar. My first thought turned to drugs. Could someone have buried paraphernalia for a pickup? Would that attract lightning? Then, as stupid as it sounds, I thought, silver. Did we have a millionaire low-back hillbilly hiding treasures outside of town? Parole officer be damned, my hands itched to find out. I scanned the woods for hikers before hunkering down and pawing at the muck. The dirt came free in globs, gathering beneath my nails. But I soon shimmied my hands around the glass and pulled. The object popped free, and I went bass-ackwards as the thing shot through the air, thumped the soggy ground, and rolled as I scrambled to my feet. And my treasure barreled toward the tributary. Mother fuck! I bolted and snatched the jar just as it started down the bank for the catfish. Then I caught my breath. I took inventory of the woods once more. Only the sparrows and catfish knew my whereabouts, and the hissing rain cloaked my labored breathing. I hobbled through the shelter of the canopy, squatting back against bark as I rolled that cold jar about my open palms. A seamed glass cookie jar. The very thing Pop used as a swear pot when I was growing up. Sometimes I think he cussed just to give me pocket money, the kind of man he was. Fuck, shit, cop, fuck, and there's your candy. Going up to the store, grab me some tobacco while you're at it. Like magic. Like magic, I mumbled, and popped the lid before peering inside. I expect a rank smell, maybe from a dead animal some psychotic child had shoved inside. But all I found was paper. Lots of paper. My brow creased. I wiped my hand on my jeans before slipping in 2 fingers and snatching a piece. Then I pulled a tiny, ripped scroll free and found myself surprised at the weight. Someone had shredded a notebook page before rolling the sections into tight little scrolls. The years only strengthened that fold, and once I unraveled the piece, I placed it on my knee and held it open. There lay a single penny taped next to the handwriting. What the fuck is going on here? I peeled the tape and held the coin up for inspection. A 1952 Lincoln wheat penny. Pristine. I pocketed the coin before I studied the paper, cursing as raindrops marred the page. The scrawl reminded me of someone using their bad hand or a drunkard's love letter. Then I realized what I was looking at. A child's handwriting. To whoever cares, it read, I'm not asking for a Raleigh, just a bike, any bike. Stop Casey making fun of me, please. Is that too fucking much to ask? Well, goddamn. I couldn't help it, man. I laughed. I laughed damn hard. I read it twice over before pocketing the thing and climbing to my feet. Shaking my head, I had one thought. What else had this kid wished for? The heavy jar promised lots of reading material, that's for sure. And I took off home as I recapped the lid. I didn't want a single page damaged. What would I have wished for as a child? Probably a mountain of fun dip, pop rocks, and everlasting gobstoppers. Something stupid like that. But shit, this kid had balls, man, and I needed to know more. I took off home with rockets in my boots. Briarwood Estates trailer park emitted a soft glow as families wasted the afternoon binging TV. Pop's home sat at the far end by the welcome sign, no more than a trailer without wheels, and I beelined there as thunder cracked and pregnant clouds pissed ice water. The wind had knocked June Randolph's seats for sale sign down, and I made a mental note to fix it come morning. Her and Pop always got along. Then Kenny Williams burst from his mobile home. Hey, Kenny, what's happened? He slogged across the lawn with that ball of beer belly sloshing beneath his white beard. That man could run naked in the Arctic and still say, it ain't that cold. He sniffled. Hey, Joe, listen, I got a proposition to make. Now there's a word for a man like you. Shit, Kenny, you're gonna catch your death out here. Why not come over to Pop's place later? We'll talk. Rain dripped from my nose, and I made to leave when he said, well, see, I already been there. Crap on a stick. If Pop got wind of another infamous Kenny Williams get-rich-quick scheme, my parole officer would hop me faster than a dog in heat. Henderson wasn't a drill sergeant by any means, but the man had eyes for liars. I blagged my way into his good side with each checkup, and you bet your pocket thing I intended to say that. Kenny, what did you go and do? Nothing, man, nothing. Yeesh. I got a guy out in the city moving a bunch of repoed shit. Junked cars, that kind of thing. I'm making a profit out here, just keeping food on the table, that kind of thing. I thought of the time Kenny jacked pockets full of Parmesan from Walmart, planning to get a thrift store suit and sell it to restaurants, all legit-like, and stifled a laugh. I swear he and Angie will be the death of me. Why were you at Pop's place? I stuck something in the garage for you. For free, man. Free. Just proving I'm moving serious shit here. Oh, yeah? And what's the catch? Got the Denny brothers involved? He licked his lips, opened his arms wide. Picture big, all right? Look, I got a junk 71 Chevelle that Brian put a new coat of paint on for me. Gonna pass it off to, the Denny brothers for $1,000. $1,000 easy, Joe. I only paid $400. You know how slow those knuckleheads are. They're a cash cow. And you want me to be your salesman? I'll give you good money, man. Cash in hand, he said in an exasperated manner, as if I were the slowest damn thing he ever did see. You're good at this kind of shit, Joe. Remember the time you sold the Denny brothers a green-painted bathtub because it looked new age, I finished. Yeah, I remember. So you can do it, he said, arms still out wide. I'm pleading. It's real low risk, Joe. Just a car. At first. Rainwater slithered inside my jacket, and I shivered as a harsh wind blew my hair. I did need the damned money. Pop's mill wage granted little comfort. The old house spoke to that. He lied he could handle the bills. Ain't nothing, Joe. But I knew better. That man would give me the shirt off his back and ask if I needed more, even if I'd just broken his jaw with a wrench. I intended on pulling my weight, getting settled by the time the weather cleared, and making Pop proud. No one would hire me because of my stint inside. No one smart, at least. All right, listen, I said. I'll come around tonight, but stay away from Pops. He doesn't need this shit. Kenny flashed those nicotine-stained stubs. I got it. Oh, hey, can I get a cookie? I'd almost forgotten about my job. I shook my head. Get out of the rain, Kenny. I'll see you tonight. Right. I kept my head low against the sheeting water as I rushed home. And that's when Kenny called out. Joe, it's a bike. I turned. What? It's a bike. What I left you. A serious present for a serious deal. I thought you could take it up to the lowback sometime, now that you're out and getting clean. A bite? Something cold and hard twisted it in my gut. What kind? I asked. A Raleigh, he said and smiled. Come on, who doesn't want a Raleigh? Pop sat at the kitchen table holding the morning newspaper. A cup of black coffee rested beside him, probably untouched and room temperature at best. My father was nothing if not a creature of habit. He wore his weekend clothes, a flannel shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed moccasin slippers. Every other day of the week for the past 22 years, he donned his dark blue work clothes for the low-back feed mill, took every bit of overtime they offered if he could, and never took a day off. Hard-working man through and through, my dad. He glanced at me as I shut the door and stepped into the living room. Evening, kid. Hey, Pop. How's the world this morning? Going to hell in a handcart, that's how. Nothing gets my piss hot like reading about the government these days. Stupid sons of bitches. Why do you keep reading about it? I crossed to the kitchen counter and poured a cup of coffee. Black. I used to hate it that way, but when you're on the inside, sugar and creamer become valuable trading commodities. Now I look forward to the bitter taste. Pop let the top of the newspaper fold and peered at me. Because knowing and getting pissed off is better than walking around stupid. I laughed and sipped the hot brew. Speaking of stupid, Kenny stopped by after you left this morning. His gaze remained on me. Acted all shifty and nervous like he does. You two up to something? Nah, Pop. You know how Kenny is. Nothing to worry about. Man's dumber than a box of shit and always has been. Don't get mixed up in any schemes he has cooking. I nodded and swallowed another mouthful of coffee. I won't. I know better. Pop grunted and turned his focus back on the paper, flicking out the pages. I headed toward my room and made it halfway down the hall before I realized I'd been hiding the penny jar at my side so Pop couldn't see. For the life of me, I had no idea why. Pop called out as I made it to my room. Kenny said he left you something in the garage, by the way. Thanks, Pop. My father hadn't touched my bedroom at all during my time inside. And now that I was out, I didn't feel the need to change it. There was something comforting, something safe about the posters on my wall. Misfits and dead milkmen. Screaming trees and Alice in Chains. I was home again, yeah, but more importantly, it felt like home. I sandwiched the jar between my bed and dresser and pushed a trash can against it. Then I appraised my work. Nope, that wouldn't do. I knelt and pulled out the bottom dresser drawer. Lots of band t-shirts and some hoodies I probably couldn't fit in anymore. I lifted them out and froze. A wave of nausea flowed through me, and I felt like getting sick right there on my bedroom floor. I pulled out a length of rubber tubing and held it in front of me. How many times have I used it to tie off and shoot up? I dropped it to the carpet and put the penny jar beneath the old clothes and pushed the drawer shut. The tubing lay on the floor like a dead snake. I looked over at my bed and everything flooded back, throwing up over and over again until nothing but stomach bile burned my throat. The sweating, the chills, muscle cramps through my entire body, twisting and knotting in places I didn't think could even do that sort of thing. Shitting and pissing myself. Snot running in rivers like it was abandoning ship. The leather belts buckled at my wrists and ankles, holding me to my bedposts. For my own good. And Pop. Throughout the whole thing, Pop. The expression on his face, the painful disappointment I had let something else control my life. See, while Angie was busy shoving a .38 revolver at a teenaged cashier and demanding the cash from the register, I was sitting in a parked car, shaking in pain from being dope sick. That's why I wasn't inside with her. That's why my sentence was reduced to an accomplice. Because I was sicker than a dog dealing with withdrawal. After the arrest, Pop posted bail and brought me home while the courts lined up all the pre-trial and sentencing bullshit. But that night, the first night Pop took me home, he told me he loved me. Understand, he's a kind man, my father, but actually saying he loves me out in the open? More terrifying than getting arrested for robbery. He told me he loved me and punched me with a right hook, the hardest I've ever been hit. When I woke up, I was shirtless and wearing sweatpants, and my wrists and ankles were buckled to the bedposts with leather belts. And hell started. Hard and fast and so deep I thought it would never end. But Pop got me clean. I'll give him that. I begged and pleaded with him. I screamed so loud I lost my voice. I told him I hated him and cursed his name. Called him everything in the book. But he ignored it all and brought me water so I could throw it up again. Cleaned my piss and shit and puke so often I lost count. When it was over and I opened my eyes for the first time to find my body wasn't racked with cramps, I loved him even more. I'd made it through to the other side. He'd gotten me clean before I went to prison. With a tubing in my hand, I headed back to the kitchen. Hey, Pop? He grunted in acknowledgement but didn't look up. Pop, I don't know if you go through my bedroom or not. I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you do, but I didn't want you to find this and think He peered up, his gaze zeroing in on the dangling tube. That expression I'd seen so long ago washed over his face. Disappointment, yeah, but more. It's like something sad and heavy he wanted to say but couldn't quite muster the words. I found it in my dresser and with some old clothes and wanted to tell you. I didn't want you to find it, and I'm clean, Pop. Okay? I'm staying clean. All right, then. He nodded and flicked out the paper. Cut it up. Toss it in the bin. I waited a moment, dumbfounded. Then I did as he asked, slicing up the tube and throwing it out on top of the used coffee filter in the trash can. Done. I swallowed the last of the coffee in my mug and headed to the garage. The door whined as I lifted it. And son of a bitch, Kenny's words were true. I stood, staring. There's a unique feeling when you step out of the gates. It's freedom, of course, but it's more than that. It's an uneasy freedom, as if you'll be snatched back before you take one more step. The guard saying there's been a mistake. You don't trust it. That's how I felt walking around the Raleigh Bike. It was exquisite. I didn't know where Kenny had gotten the thing, but there wasn't even any wear on the grips. Besides some dirt on the tires from when Kenny had brought it over, the bike looked untouched, brand new. The metal flake paint gleamed in the low light of the garage, and I couldn't help but grin. It had been about 10 years since I'd ridden a bike, but when I straddled that Raleigh, it fit me perfectly. I flipped up the kickstand with my foot and pedaled out into the drizzle, my heart picking up speed alongside the tires. With the rain and wind on my face, I pedaled down Fishing Creek Road, smiling like a kid on the first day of summer. It was the first time since I'd gotten out of prison I truly felt free.
That was Robert Ford reading a sample chapter from his upcoming book, A Penny for Your Thoughts. It's available for pre-order right now, comes out June 1st, just a few days away, so make sure you click the links in the show notes for Mr. Ford and his book, along with the links for our sponsors and friends. You also want to check out our backlist for more amazing authors. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out when we come back each week with a new author, a new book, and a new sample chapter. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.